You probably heard the story. It's about an egg. Humpty Dumpty sat on a wall. Humpty Dumpty had a great fall. And all the king's horses and all the king's men could not put Humpty together again. Some things, when they are broken, can be repaired. It may take some time and some know-how, but broken things can be repaired. Many can. Some things cannot. On the first hand, though, have you ever heard of an art called kintsugi? It's a Japanese way of repairing broken pottery. And actually, they'll even break the pottery and do it just for the sake of the art. And what they do is they take this broken bowl, for example, or a broken vase, and repair it with gold in the cracks. So that to many eyes, it looks better afterwards than if it had never been cracked in the first place. But when some other things break, such as was the case with Humpty Dumpty, like an eggshell, they can't be repaired so easily. Not even by the greatest earthly powers that be. And we know this from human nature too. We know that there is brokenness in the world, that no matter how much resources we put into it, seems that it just won't be repaired. Yet there is hope. While we are inherently good, and while for the most part people do what they do in order to be happy, the fact remains that there is that brokenness in the human family, there's brokenness in each of our families, and there's even brokenness within each of our hearts. And when it comes to our brokenness, which is a result of sin, we, on our own, cannot put ourselves back together. Maybe on a moral level or an emotional level, we can do something such as pull ourselves together. You know the phrase, pull yourself together. But ultimately, since sin and that kind of brokenness is an offense against God's infinite goodness and against his infinite love, nothing finite could put the brokenness from sin back together. Yet there must be hope, because placed within each of us is a desire for wholeness, a desire for union with God and with one another placed deep within us. And for that desire to be fulfilled and accomplished, we need Jesus. Case in point with our readings today, which give us a case study of sorts on one example of that brokenness, which is the sin of envy. Envy. The first reading, the wicked ones in the first reading were looking for any opportunity to shame the just one, to look at an opportunity to see the just one fall. St. James, in the second reading, pointing out how envy is one of the causes of war and disorder in every foul practice. If that's the case, well, what is envy? Just to clarify that, what is envy? Envy isn't simply desiring what other people have. That's something else. But rather, envy is the irrational sorrow that we hold on to, the sorrow we experience when something good happens to somebody else. That's envy. Or on the flip side, it's the gladness in our heart, or the enjoyment we take when something bad happens to somebody else. That's envy. So that's what we have going on a lot in our readings. Even in our gospel, the disciples walking along the way, right after Jesus tells them about his passion and death, which is to come, that's too much for them to think about, and they switch to discussing somebody else, and they become something else. They're discussing who's the greatest. And envy was entering into this band of the disciples, each of them trying to be the first. And what does Jesus do? He tries to bring that to the surface so that he can heal it. And then what he does, of course, is he brings in a child into the situation. Bringing the child in as an example of innocence, as an example of true greatness. As Jesus said, the first shall be last, the last shall be first. A beautiful thing that we do as a parish is to receive the children as Jesus taught in the gospel today, saying, if you receive one of these children in my name. Our catechists do this, but also our families, who are the first teachers of the faith to their children, receive them and help them to learn what they need to trust in Jesus, to learn what they need to maintain that innocence. As a community, we're able to teach them about God and teach them to turn to Christ in those times when they need to be put back together. Just think about how the first reconciliation students learn that opportunity. And ultimately, catechesis is about bringing not just our children, but every single person who is learning about God into relationship with Him, into a relationship with the only one who can truly make us whole. Everybody can learn from the children to trust with that childlike faith in God. For each of us, somewhere along the line, that innocence got lost. Yet it can be restored. Not in the same way that we were, but better. Again, like that broken bowl, that broken pottery, which is restored with gold in the cracks. I like to think of the sacraments with that analogy a little bit, that the gold bringing us more into wholeness, restoring us with a sense of beauty in the soul. For example, we can walk into that door of the confessional, a broken bowl, and come out of it with those cracks beautifully filled with gold. Because God doesn't allow any brokenness without knowing that something more beautiful is going to come about. Every time we prepare to receive communion, we say those words, Lord, I'm not worthy that you should enter under my roof, but only say the word, and my soul shall be healed. A plea, a prayer to our Lord to heal us, to make us whole, to make us one with Him and one with one another. Brothers and sisters, we need Jesus, who for our sake was broken for us on the cross. Jesus, who for our sake is broken for us on the altar, so that we might be put together, so that we might be made whole again in His sight.